Annan, let me ask you about an issue that we've actually talked a fair amount about in India, and this is this whole business of reverse innovation, frugal engineering. Has the time now come to address the issue of dealing with consumers at the bottom of the pyramid differently?
Yes, I think we need to be creative as to how we deal with the problems of the poor, those you describe as those at the bottom of the pyramid. The poor have assets, and sometimes we should be able to help them collateralize it. I mean, studies have been done in poor communities. They did one in Egypt, for example. To their surprise to discover, people in the poor community were sitting on about $35 billion, but they had no access to the banks. They couldn't have the documents to be able to use it as collateral to raise loans. We should also look at their needs and what is helpful for them, not assume that what we produce for the upper middle class or the middle class will suit them. A good example is what happened in Kenya, where they came up with M-Pesa, where you can pay through your telephone system, your cell phone, and even make savings through the cell phone. With that move, they brought 17 million people into the financial system. These were people who were outside the system, who did not go to the high street banks. And the high street banks didn't think of them, nor their needs. You know, now there are people who are opening banks right in the markets.
You know, let me add to what Dr. Kofi Annan said. If you want to help the poor in India, if the government wants to help the poor in India, then they have to encourage companies to use the power of technology. They have to encourage companies to bring in economies of scale. They have to help companies to avoid wastage of food. As you know, 30% of grains in India are supposed to be rotting. If you did many of these, I have no doubt at all that our poor will benefit. Therefore, we have to put in place policies that will help the 2 billion Indians as against protecting the interest of probably 100,000 Indians. So if we did that, I have no doubt at all that we will help the vast majority of poor in the country.
Okay, let me now move the conversation to the reason why Dr. Annan is in India for the Infosys Science Foundation Awards. Dr. Annan, you know, the government has put out this Vision 2020 of trying to nurture and foster research and development science in India, but the fact of the matter is the statistics tell a very, very different story. The comparison with China, we pale in every aspect when it comes to research and development in terms of spending, in terms of the number of patents that we apply for, and so on and so forth. What do you think can be done both at the government level as well as the private sector end to actually nurture a spirit of scientific inquiry and of course a move towards enhancing research and development that's relevant to a country like India?
I recently have been encouraged reading that the Indian government wants to increase the amount of money it spends on research to 2% of the GDP. I think currently it's at about 20.25%. But what companies like Infosys is also doing is extremely important. Apart from the government increasing resources for research, they should have incentives for companies to do innovation, to do research. And if these researchers are properly directed, they will help us resolve some of the problems that we face today.
I would say that there is a lot that the government can do. It has done a lot of good things so far, including desire to increase the budget for research. And that is, you must make it easy for Indian researchers to communicate and work with foreign researchers, particularly in the US, Europe, Australia, etc. Similarly, you should make it easy for world-class researchers to come and visit India and spend some time. You should make it easy for our students to work with students there, faculty there. I think those are the areas which will add tremendous value.
Okay, Dr. Annan, let me ask you a question on the geopolitical situation. You were at Davos, you also met with the Iranian president, and I know that the elders have enthusiastically welcomed the P5+1 interim deal with Iran. You believe that this is a historic opportunity to rebuild connections with Iran. Do you feel that the geopolitical risks that the world faces today have lessened on account of this interim deal?
Well, the interim deal is a positive sign. It's an important development, but we are not there yet. It is important for them to sustain the effort and get a definite and final agreement on the nuclear issue and begin to work with Iran on some of the geopolitical issues in the region. I don't see, for example, how one can resolve Syria without the participation of Iran. Iran has an important role to play in the region, and I would hope that as we move forward to resolve the nuclear issue, the cooperation will be expanded to broader areas.
But are you feeling confident, Dr. Annan, that we could see this deal being operationalized fairly swiftly? And you were talking about engaging Iran with regards to Syria, but Iran has always supported the Assad regime. Do you believe that countries like the US will be in favor of Iran playing any role as far as the Syrian conflict is concerned?
Well, as you know, I was in Iran last week. We're leading a team of elders, and we met the Iranian leadership and discussed quite a lot of issues, not just the nuclear issue. We discussed Syria, tensions in the region, the withdrawal of the US troops from Afghanistan, and really the broader Middle East and developments there. I think we have to understand that enmity between nations and people do not last forever. And it is possible, and I think we will see it, and I hope sooner rather than later, that Iran will come back to the international fold and play the role that it should play. The divisions we see in the world today, whether in the Security Council or the region, is only creating a situation where more and more Syrians are dying. Our divisions are killing Syrians. We need to have sound policies, and we have to understand that bad policies kill people.
Well, that wraps up the appointment for this week. Till next week, from all of us here, goodbye and many thanks for watching.